Let's do something fun.
Hey there, I'm Filup Molina, and holy crap, did you guys see this Suicide Squad trailer? I'm assuming so because you're watching this video. I will be the first to say that it wasn't the most exciting movie when we first heard about it, slash when we first saw some pictures, slash when we heard Will Smith say,
"We're some kind of Suicide Squad."
But I will say after this trailer, I don't know, it kind of changes things. Like, whoever made this thing, bravo. This was one of the best edited trailers I've seen in a very long time, and I see a lot of freaking trailers. And yeah, sure, it has some similarities to the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer with anti-heroes escaping a prison, and it's set to a totally classic song. But whatever, that trailer was great too, and that movie was great. And I won't say that Suicide Squad is like definitely gonna be this amazing movie, but you can't deny after that trailer that it's probably at least gonna be one of the most fun movies of the year. So how about we dissect it? All right, let's do it.
Is this the real life?
Let me out of here, Donald, please.
Let me out of here, Marsden! Is this just fantasy? Come on!
Okay, right away we have to immediately address this freaking epic song choice, Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, it's an amazing song, but it's actually incredibly appropriate. It's pretty obvious that the editor of this trailer was using specific moments of the song and its lyrics to really highlight themes that this movie's gonna explore. Like, what's it mean to be evil? Can someone who's killed a man find redemption? Is that person's soul doomed? Yada yada themes. We'll get into them as they come up. But right here, I'm gonna point out just overall about the song, it's really famous for its very diverse, different sections that kind of have no business being put together. They sound like completely different songs, and yet when you smash them together, for some reason, they create one of the greatest rock songs of all time.
Is this the real life? Thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening. So you think you can stop me and split my eyes?
I think we'll go with a little Bohemian Rhapsody, gentlemen.
Good call.
So, overall, the creators of this movie are telling us that this team has no business being put together. There's no reason why this should work, and yet they might actually end up being one of the most epic teams to have ever formed. And yeah, that's a really high bar that they're setting, but they definitely seem to think they're gonna deliver on that. Moving on, the opening lyrics introduce us to two pretty opposite states of mind, with "Is this the real life?" showing us the newest inmate to the prison, Jai Courtney's Captain Boomerang, being tossed into a solitary confinement cell, and clearly he's wondering, yeah, is this my real life? Because if so, that freaking sucks. This place is clearly no joke. The cells look like freaking shipping containers. The guards look ready to pump inmates full of shotgun shells. If you jump back to the opening shot and up the brightness a little bit, you can see that the prison's motto is firm but fair, and I think we can all pretty much agree that that's probably BS, and that this place is probably just some sort of living nightmare. And speaking of living in a dream, that second lyric, "Or is this just fantasy?" it's introducing us to the opposite state of mind. Instead of accepting the harsh reality, we have Harley Quinn, clearly seeing herself in some sort of fantasy situation. She's sipping tea, her pinky's all dainty. She's reading a Harlequin romance novel, which, yes, I see what you did there. Clever, good job. That book is actually called Between the Sheets, and it's a story of what happens when an uptight, straight-laced woman meets this chaotic, risk-taking bad boy who teaches her how to lose control and go a little crazy. And it kind of sounds familiar, right? Also, it's a very good read, but don't ask how I know that. Before we move on, I'll point out that the jumpsuit says Site Bravo, which is clearly a code name, which would imply that this is a secret prison that probably isn't showing up on any maps anywhere. But actually, Bravo 14 was the code name they used for this movie while they were shooting it. All right, moving on.
Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality.
Will Smith stares out of a window watching rainfall, and something tells me that it's probably been a really long time since he's felt rain on his skin. Then Killer Croc does some push-ups in his cell, but let's crank up the brightness and point out how much is actually going on here. This is not a normal cell. It's almost more like a sewer, and it has some sort of like pond for him to swim in, and there's freaking like meat and entrails hanging in the corner. Croc is a cannibal, so it makes you wonder, is that freaking human meat? Like, I know you wouldn't actually think it would be, but doesn't it seem like the kind of prison where inmates just die all the time, and it would be way cheaper than planning funeral arrangements, and they don't have to ship in pigs or cow guts or anything for him. It could be human meat, I don't know. We get a quick shot of El Diablo playing with fire, which helps us see all of his crazy tats. And these are actually real LA gang tattoos, with Mi Vida Loca being a reference to the gang way of life. The cobwebs represent a long prison term, a Grim Reaper scythe because he's the bringer of death. And so you can probably guess what he's counting on those tally marks above his eyebrow. It's people, dead people. He's a murderer. I think you get it. We then see the inside of cell D108, and yeah, that freaking sucks. Just like the song says right there at that moment. There's clearly no escaping from this reality. All right, let's keep going.
I want to assemble a task force of the most dangerous people on the planet.
They're bad guys. Worst of the worst.
My time has come.
We then see the same rainstorm that Deadshot was staring at, but from the opposite side of life. And like, not only does the color palette completely change from that cold and sickly blue and green to a warm, berry golden hue, but even the window blinds indicate that this is what life is like on the other side of prison bars. Viola Davis's Amanda Waller gives us the premise of the movie. She wants to assemble a task force made up of bad guys.
Worst of the worst.
But she's stuffing her mouth with steak and she's having this fancy dinner with these high-ranking members of the military. This is often a really subtle way to imply just how detached or even sometimes corrupt the people in charge can be, because after all, it's not their lives they're risking. Speaking of interesting color choices, check out what DC's done with the logos here. This is the beginning of the whole neon color upgrade from that gray color palette that they used in the Comic-Con trailer. And there's two really cool things about this. One is that if you pause it, you can see where someone has tagged the logos with neon graffiti, and they change the spelling of pictures and comics, and the handwriting implies that it's Joker. But what's really cool about this fact is that it's chaos and vandalism that is breaking the fourth wall. It's like the Joker is vandalizing his own movie trailer. Like, he can't be contained inside of a movie. It reminds me a lot of the graffiti ad campaign they did back for The Dark Knight. But two, the other cool thing about this whole bright neon color thing, the paint is actually almost like a glow-in-the-dark thing. And DC's been called the studio that does the dark superhero movies, if you compare it to the lighter fun of the Marvel movies. And I think that's exactly their point here. They're saying, fine, call us dark, but we will show you that we've got some big ol' freaking weirdos that will glow in that darkness. Then as the singer of Bohemian Rhapsody realizes that Judgment Day has come for him,
My time has come.
we see the guards come for Deadshot. And this beating moment here, it's actually one of the first, just so perfect times where the song lines up with the trailer.
My time has come.
This is happening just a few cells away from Boomerang's cell, so I'm sure he's loving hearing all this. Also, the guy doing the beating, that's Ike Barinholtz from Mad TV and the Mindy Project. He's clearly enjoying this, and it's not very subtle that as far as he's concerned, he's the alpha of this prison. He also seems like the main douche of this prison. Let's move on.
Send shivers down my spine.
Was this cheerleading tryouts?
All the time.
Hi, boys.
The torture and pain continue, just as Freddie Mercury complained.
Down my spine. Body's aching all the time.
By the way, again, look how douchey Alpha is. Who labels their raincoats like that? Like, what a freaking nerd. We see that he's been keeping El Diablo in a water tank, which I gotta wonder just how full Alpha lets it get and how much he makes Diablo feel like he's drowning before he lets him out. But I guess it does kind of make sense, as the only way they can contain a guy who can wield fire. Honestly, the real question is, how did they get him in there in the first place? We then see Croc's body aching moment as he's wheeled into a creepy makeshift operating room looking a lot like another famous cannibal. Minor spoiler here if you're not familiar with the Suicide Squad in the comics or cartoon movie or anything, but I bet this might be where Amanda Waller has each member implanted with a bomb in their freaking head. It's not much of a spoiler though, because how else did we expect she was gonna keep these uncontrollable villains under her thumb? You do what she says or she'll blow your freaking head off. Deadshot then gets off a mandatory Will Smith one-liner.
Was this cheerleading tryouts?
Which I think might be what he says when he catches a glimpse of Harley Quinn and her pigtails. And also, I hope Alpha's coffee tastes like crap. Okay, then we get one of the best moments of the trailer where Captain Boomerang bursts out of a sack and immediately attacks the guard. The sack looks like he actually might have been shipped, like mailed, all the way from freaking Australia. Like, they put put a stamp on him and sent him out. Like he's some sort of like rabid kangaroo that they just wanted to like get rid of. Slipknot also pulls a similar move, though he decks a lady FBI agent, so it's much lamer. And you can see amongst the guards is Rick Flag, who is the team leader and the kind of recruiter for the squad. Also taking a look at the way everyone's dressed and that joke about this maybe being tryouts and this feel like that this is the moment where the team first gets together. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this might be a Longest Yard moment. If you're not familiar with The Longest Yard, it's a movie about prison inmates who form a football team to challenge the guards and maybe even get even with them. And I could see that the squad members maybe have to prove themselves worthy of being on the team, and they get to challenge the prison guards in order to prove themselves worthy. Maybe they fight them, maybe they all do like a big rumble, which would be awesome actually. Maybe someone even kicks Alpha's freaking teeth in. And yes, I'm sorry, I know he's a fictional character, but I just like hate his guts already for some reason. By the way, it's pretty cool that this section wraps up with two super jacked guys being super aggro just to like show how dangerous they are, and then it cuts to Harley Quinn just saying,
"Hi, boys."
Clearly she's just as dangerous as them, but in her own way. Okay, let's keep going.
Deadshot. Guy shoots people. He's a crocodile and he eats people. Burns people. You're possessed by a witch, and she's just crazy.
Rick Flag ignores a really flirty June Moon / Enchantress while giving us a team breakdown as he flips through the dossier, and the documents confirm that this prison is Belle Reve, or if you're pronouncing it the correct French way, Belle Reve, and that's the same metahuman containment prison from the comics, and you can find the name a little ironic because the translation of it means beautiful dream, or maybe you're like Harley and you actually think that it is just an actual dream world. But anyway, the team. Deadshot has perfect aim, cool. Killer Croc is a cannibal, and we see a second of him probably about to eat a guard, which, by the way, is kind of their own fault for putting a deep pond in his cell. Diablo has torch hands, and note what gets said about Enchantress, you're possessed by a witch, meaning that he's talking about her in that moment, and since we don't see her in the prison cells, I'm guessing she joins the Suicide Squad in a different way than everyone else does. I will still probably get her origin story with those cave diving scenes that we saw in the other video. And then finally, Harley is...
she's just crazy.
Which I think actually might be her superpower in a way. And I think that means that something's gonna happen in this movie where Harley really earns that title. And just like the Joker in The Dark Knight was an agent of chaos, I think Harley might pull something in this movie that is just completely unexpected and changes everything. Maybe, we'll see.
What was that? I should kill everyone and escape? Sorry. It's the voices. I'm kidding. That's not what they really said.
So this here is our clearest shot of Scott Eastwood, and we're not really sure what character he's playing yet. It might be Deathstroke, which would be cool, but it might be Dick Grayson, the main Robin that people know, and people think maybe he'll be undercover in this movie as an ex-Robin, and that would be so freaking cool. But in this trailer, at the least we know he's some sort of soldier friend of Rick Flag. Still, fingers crossed for undercover Robin, that would be so cool. Also, I'm gonna point out that it looks like they all just arrived on these Hannibal Lecter standing gurneys. And one more thing, check out that smirk that Will Smith makes after Harley tells her joke. Prediction, I think Deadshot is totally gonna be into Harley. If you're wondering, would Will Smith and Margo Robbie have any chemistry at all? Check out Focus and you will see an adorably, very talky sex scene between them. Maybe we'll get a sequel to that scene in this movie. Let's move on.
This is the deal. You're going somewhere very bad.
Whoa!
Do something that'll get you killed.
Let's go save the world.
Okay, then the trailer starts to pick up speed, so will I. A cool thing that's going on here, Rick Flag is laying out the deal that the Suicide Squad has found themselves in, the terrible battles that are gonna happen, we get glimpses of that, and it all just fits perfectly with this part of Bohemian Rhapsody. It's the operatic part that is supposed to represent a trial, these two sides fighting over the singer's soul.
Will not let you go. Let him go.
And the stars of our movie are also fighting for the redemption of their souls. We then see Chinook helicopters getting fired at over what looks like the Chicago River, but because they framed it this way and it's a helicopter invasion and it's purposely placed over water, I think this is a direct reference to the Ride of the Valkyries scene in Apocalypse Now, which was also referenced recently in Star Wars. Also, the gunfire is another moment that's perfectly timed with the music. Ah, so good. Anyway, then things derail very quickly. There's this wreckage that some people say is a plane, but some other people think it could be one of the choppers. Other people think it's maybe a subway train that's like pushed up from underground. Tell me what you think it is in the comments. Then there's the military Humvee that's been destroyed and it's got this trail of this like strange bluish green crystal crap. I'm not sure what that is, but we'll get back to it later anyway. And then note this spray paint tag on the Dunkin' Donuts sign. That's a technique that the military uses to label sectors of a town that have suffered a huge tragedy. You sometimes see them in a like zombie apocalypse movie, or actually in real life with something like Hurricane Katrina. And some of the numbers tend to represent things like how many dead bodies they've found there, or other parts might represent if the area is cleaned of infection. It's all just very creepy to see. Also, since that's a Humvee and this sign says no, maybe like no, we did not clear it, then that's a pretty epic thing that the Suicide Squad is going into after the United States military clearly failed. This shot then shows us the lineup with Harley Quinn looking like a kid in a candy store, Rick Flag, Deadshot, El Diablo, Captain Boomerang, and Katana. And it's not clear how Katana is joining the team. She's kind of a good guy in the comics, and she's actually on Arrow right now in a kind of different way. But Joel Kinnaman has said that he sees Katana as kind of like a bodyguard to Rick Flag, so maybe that's true and that's what she is here. But notice also Slipknot is not there. And while I feel like he might be in some other moments around this scene, I still feel like he shouldn't really get attached to this guy, if you know what I mean. Basically, my guess is the guy whose superpower is ropes, he might not last very long. The group then invades what looks like an office building, but then we see a gross subway platform that's like covered in that same goo crap from before. And the subway, by the way, it looks to be this really famous Toronto subway station called Lower Bay. It's famous because it was a real subway station in the 1960s, but they only left it open for 6 months. Then they just completely shut it down and let it sit there, closed, abandoned, probably haunted. And then decades and decades later, when Hollywood was like, hey, can we use that abandoned, haunted subway, please? They totally remodeled it from an abandoned, crappy subway to look exactly like a real New York crappy subway. They actually really even tagged it up with fake graffiti, and now you know some movie history. In the next few beats, we see the exterior of the station while Deadshot is trying to maybe murder something. Harley's going off on her own, and Will Smith gets another Will Smith line.
Let's go save the world.
Which is still all way better than that stupid other line from the other trailer.
We're some kind of Suicide Squad.
Yes, you are. That's the name of your movie. Thank you. Then Harley double fists a gun and a bat, and we get a rare shot of Will Smith wearing his white mask. Don't count on many of those because A-list celebrities are allergic to face masks. Then Captain Boomerang fights one of those weird skinned creatures, and oh my, look at that. It looks like he might be trying to decapitate him with a freaking boomerang. Like, I was actually pretty nervous that there weren't a lot of boomerangs in this trailer, and I was like, are they avoiding showing it because it's gonna look lame or something? But he still got it, his stereotypical Aussie weapon, and he is managing to make it look kind of badass, so maybe they pulled it off. Then Killer Croc body slams one of these creepy things, and you can actually see that it's wearing like a soldier's uniform, and on the way down you can see that it's also got a soldier's gun. So I'm thinking this goo might be some sort of like mind control thing that's essentially creating zombies, but zombies that can shoot guns and fight you. And if that's the case, that is awesome sounding. Also, Harley blows that little tuft of her hair, and it's just oh so adorable. And you can make out her little like pudding choker thing. You get a better shot of it later, but it's obviously a reference to the person. Well, you know who that's a reference to.
Puddin'.
So speaking of Mr. J,
I can't wait to show you my toys.
Mamma mia, mamma mia. Mamma mia, let me go.
Let's do something fun.
this section finally addresses the clown in the room, Jared Leto's Joker. And while this Joker definitely already looks to be very different, at least in appearance, than Heath Ledger's Joker, seeing this moment reminds me so much of that Dark Knight Joker scene where he's holding Gamble's face, kind of the same intensity.
Why so serious?
And that chaotic mind also seems to be there. I think I'm actually starting to come around to seeing this version of the Joker. He definitely looks freaking crazy, and I mean, he's hanging out in a meat locker, so I guess enough said. Also, I'm pretty sure the guy he's holding is Ike Barinholtz's freaking douchey alpha guy. You can see like that brown hair and that goatee, and it's just good to see him getting what's coming to him. But you never know, actually. What if Joker is actually maybe creating a new villain out of this guy, kind of like he did with Harley? There were rumors that Ike Barinholtz Holtz could maybe play Hugo Strange, and while it would be a really crazy different version of that guy's story, it could be interesting if he somehow survives this and becomes another villain in this universe. Like, remember the one Batman vs Superman teaser that they showed before? It showed the Riddler's symbol. It's clear that they're definitely willing to keep adding characters to this universe, so you never know, this guy might come back. We then see what looks like some Joker foot soldiers wearing these ridiculous masks as they shoot down a hallway, but it's marked Ward F, meaning that this shootout is in maybe a mental hospital, so probably Arkham Asylum, and the Joker is clearly taking it over. Then the Joker appears in this tuxedo with the white carnation thing, and he's laughing and he's firing probably the fanciest looking gun I've ever seen, but his appearance here is all a reference to Alex Ross's cover on Batman Harley Quinn, that comic, which by the way is about Harley Quinn's creation and is the first comic to like officially bring the character into the DC canon in the comics. Before that, it was only a cartoon-based character. Actually, it started in the cartoons first, but considering that on that cover Harley Quinn is right next to him, I'm wondering if she's about to join him in this shot. Then the guy shooting here, his patch says Mr. Frost, so Johnny Frost probably. He's the Joker's henchman slash like a driver, but also see his other patch says JSF, which I'm guessing stands for maybe Joker Security Force. Anyway, look at the freaking gun. That's massive. I think that might be what is trying to take down those helicopters, and it totally could. We then get a glimpse of that scene where I'm pretty sure Joker is starting his torture of Harley Quinn, and then he makes her crazy. Then we get a great shot of that badass Joker mobile, and if you want one, it's actually just an Affinity Q35 coupe with this Vader body kit. Now, I don't consider this a spoiler because this was in the other video that they released, but if you forgot, this is the moment where Batman shows up on top of them, and since you can see Harley Quinn in there with Joker, I think he actually catches them here. This is probably a flashback, and it's probably how Harley Quinn got put away in the first place. Then we get a shot of Enchantress in the White House telling Amanda Waller, let's do something fun, and Joker laughs his ass off inside of an orbit of guns and knives and champagne. And normally, I actually kind of hate it when the bad guy sets up this like elaborate scene, because then you have to imagine, like, did he just really waste all that time putting up all these pictures? And I'm talking right now definitely about the movie Spectre, but either way, it doesn't really matter here because I actually buy it that the Joker is crazy enough to have spent all this time to set this up. Also, that kind of looks like a flipped over piano maybe. Wouldn't it be very interesting if the Joker just like breaks out into a musical number? It definitely would be unexpected. After an explosion, we see Katana using her Soul Taker blade, and if you're good at the pause game like we are, you might notice the souls that she's taking or has maybe taken before. Supposedly, her dead husband's soul is in there somewhere too. It's also worth mentioning that this very creepy section of the trailer is where we get to the part of the song that says Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me. That's obviously referencing Satan and demons, which the Joker and Enchantress kind of represent, and that line means that the singer slash narrator knows that his soul is doomed, just as we see the doomed souls of Katana's blade, and oh my god, this song fits so perfectly. The music starts to ramp up into the rock anthem part of Bohemian Rhapsody with Deadshot loading his gun to the beat of the song, just totally showing off, I guess, to Amanda Waller. And then at the peak of this like roller coaster energy, we get what many are calling their favorite moment of the trailer. Captain Boomerang nailing that Australian spirit of beer drinking. But since there have actually been a couple of pretty good Captain Boomerang moments in this trailer, you might be wondering, is he actually gonna be like a really big deal in this movie? And it definitely feels like they're trying to make him a fan favorite, and considering that he's typically a Flash villain and there is a Flash movie coming out, maybe they're actually setting him up, if he does well with audiences, to bring him back in that movie. I'll say, so far, so good. Though I still think a lot of it's gonna depend on just how cool they're able to make throwing a boomerang look. Speaking of the boomerangs, you can see a couple of them right there. But either way, we'll have to wait and see if they pull that boomerang thing off. Let's keep going into the section of the trailer where it starts to just become genuinely one of the best edited trailers of the year. Man, this is all getting just so epic now. The guitar solo kicks in and we start getting this insane barrage of shots that are building up like a fireworks grand finale, and they go by really fast, so let's just try to fly through them and see maybe what you might have missed in there. There's a close-up of Katana's eyes as they roll over black, meaning maybe she's absorbing souls or maybe she's talking to them. She has that power too. Some people actually think that she might be pulling Loki and Hawkeye here and maybe falling under some sort of mind control, possibly under Enchantress's mind control. There's a lot of options for Black Eyes. Also, notice how the mask has like a slash in the eye area and it leads to a scar on her cheek, and scar through eye area, that's always the mark of a badass. So I'm pretty excited for Katana now. Then Harley Quinn does a kind of erotic dance while using a chain like it's a shotgun, but her shotgun blasts, they're really subtly timed to match the cymbal crashes from the song. Also, check out the outfit she's wearing. It looks kind of familiar. It's a gold and black version of a Harlequin outfit, which is obviously referencing her traditional red and black one. So at least we're getting it in there somewhere. And honestly, it looks pretty good here. A Black Hawk attack helicopter looks very cool. But then because the Joker's in this movie, we get to have amazing shots like this where there's a freaking panda firing an assault rifle. I just love the way that looks. By the way, it looks like this is also from Taking Over Arkham maybe. Then we get a Scott Eastwood fist bump and please be Undercover Robin. Please be Undercover Robin. Then the biggest mystery of the whole freaking trailer, this guy. Remember the train station platform that was like covered in crystals? This is obviously how that happened. He rips through a freaking subway train like it's tinfoil or something. And if we hit the enhance button that we have, you can see he's got normal hands and he's maybe just a normal dude that's in there. And he kind of looks like he's got a bald head and tattoos maybe on his back. That's all why everyone's like, this is probably Tattooed Man, the character that's rumored to be played by Common. Then when you look at another shot of him and you hit the super enhance button, you're like, hey, they even do kind of have similar facial features. But this character doesn't have that nose ring. He also doesn't have that weird chin hair. So maybe it's not Tattooed Man actually. There's another theory that this could actually be the demon Incubus that plays a big part in Enchantress's story in the comics, but that's also kind of shaky. Maybe it's that. I know there's another character whose name I'm just totally blanking on who has these sort of like weird appendages, and he can also mind control people by covering them in goo and stuff, and he's a perfect fit for this, and I don't remember what his name is. If you remember who I'm talking about, tweet it at me, maybe at Fimo. So there's one I can't remember, maybe it's Incubus, maybe it's Tattooed Man, or maybe somebody else, let me know. Whoever he is, he's not messing around, he looks freaking badass. Anyway, moving on, there's a quick shot of Joker shoving some sort of gun, maybe a tranquilizer gun, into someone wearing a hairnet. Behind him, there are some more henchmen, including Frost, looking much more dapper now, but I actually prefer what these other guys are wearing. Those are the coolest masks ever. Like, somebody get me one of those. I love them. Freaking chompy face. Then there's a shot of Killer Croc choking Katana, and honestly, this is probably a really dumb idea. I don't know, does anybody else think that maybe Katana is just about to whip out Soul Taker and end Croc completely right now? Like, the only thing Croc gets out of this is this pretty cool looking shot of him, which is actually more impressive if you realize that none of that is CGI. Everything you're looking at right now is actually totally practical effects and prosthetics. Yes, even those way too big nipples. Moving on. We get a quick shot of Harleen Quinzel slamming down on something. It almost looks like she's trying to escape from someone. And then there's some badass shots of Deadshot using his signature wrist gun. Oh, and the cop car that he climbs over. That's our first clear shot of the sign on the side, and it says Midway City Police. In the comics, Midway City is a kind of wannabe Chicago, but it's interesting to point out because that means this isn't New York, and it's not Metropolis, and it's not Gotham. It's Midway. And those creepy things that Deadshot is shooting at, you see what I mean about these guys looking like zombies that can shoot guns and super slickly jump over police cars and stuff? That's terrifying if zombies could do that. I love it. I hope this is what is happening here. Oh, and then maybe the best of the music and trailer syncing up stuff, the shell casings are so perfectly timed with the song. Then there's a badass shot of Harley walking, clearly having seen some action because you got that cut on her head, and you can see her goodnight bat over her shoulders, and check out her arm tattoo. It's another reference to that traditional costume. And okay, another shot of Mystery Subway Man, and if this arm thing just destroyed this pillar, it is not going to go well for these soldiers. Then there's a shot of Cara Delevingne as June Moon, probably before she's full-on Enchantress. Joker's annoyed, he's headbutting a car window. I would say that it looks like he's in the back of a police car, but it kind of looks like this dude is is just like chilling, drinking a beer, so maybe it's not a police car. Then there's a cool shot of El Diablo torching something high up in a building as Deadshot is totally like freaking out behind him. Then there's a quick insert of Harley Quinn dancing back in that nightclub, and if you look closely, you can see the Joker's actually with her there. So maybe this is part of that crazy night on the town that we saw a little bit of earlier. Then there's this creepy black bath thing that June Moon is in, and I'm gonna bet that this is one of those scenes where the character's like very stressed because weird stuff keeps happening to them, and they're like, I just need to take a bath to clear my head. And then she's like in there and she's calm and she closes her eyes, and then when she opens them, boom, there's like weird grass crap and the water's all black and she's like chilling under a freaking pentagram. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. We've all been there. Then as her eyes roll up and Boomerang looks up, we wrap this trailer up with some of the coolest shots actually in this entire thing.
Seriously, the hell's wrong with you people?
We're bad guys. It's what we do.
Man, weren't those shots right at the beginning of that section awesome? The Joker swan dives into the vat of chemicals and it's in slow-mo, and I'm guessing this is right after he's probably pushed Harley Quinn in. Of course, comic book fans are like, and that's Ace Chemicals, by the way, which is the place that the Joker was created, and now I guess Harley Quinn was created, which matches the new 52 origin. But anyway, did you guys notice what's going on with the chemical bath they're in right now? Remember, Harleen was running around wearing a blue shirt, and Joker was just wearing that like purplish one. So my guess is the chemicals here are stripping the color out from the clothes, and those are what stain Harley's hair. You can see it in a shot just from a second ago. This is also probably how she gets her skin all bleached and white, just like the Joker's is, though probably no luck on him bleaching those tattoos away. We can hope though. Okay, coolest thing about the leaking color chemical stuff, which by the way, those are the same colors that are the neon colors of this trailer, but look at the shape they're making. It's a heart. Oh, it's a heart made of chemicals and violence, and it's just adorable. Then we get some kind of fun, kind of tense pointing between Deadshot and Rick Flag, who probably are actually gonna have some power struggles in this movie. Then there's another finger moment with Joker wagging his back and forth in Arkham. Then there's another moment where Croc is desperate to show off his weird nipples for some reason. And then there's a freaking Chinook that falls out of the sky and it crushes some cars. And I actually gotta wonder, maybe that's the wreckage that we saw earlier in this movie, or maybe that's how the Suicide Squad arrived, which is a rough freaking landing. Then Joker and Harley are back in the car for a second and they're joyriding, and Deadshot, again, perfectly timed with the music, is beating the hell out of what looks like his mattress, I think. Then there's this really epic shot on the front steps of the subway station exterior, and this crazy moment with this weird mushroom cloud and these creepy figures surrounding it, and it's all clearly sponsored by Monster energy drinks. By the way, if you're wondering how the lyrics fit into this section, it's the part of the song where the narrator has decided that even if they're being sent to their death, they're not just gonna accept that, they're gonna fight to get out of the situation. So yes, it still fits perfectly. That's exactly what the Suicide Squad is saying. You might be sending us to our death, but we're gonna try to fight our way out. Harley then loses her jacket and pulls a Tarzan, and then we get our second abrupt cutting away of the music so that Harley can abruptly stop the mission and steal a purse. Based on the way Flag is reacting and the hushness and nervousness that he kind of has, I bet this part of the movie has them landing in that contaminated area or infected zone or ground zero, whatever they're gonna call it in this movie. And now they're just all super nervous and quiet because they're worried about getting attacked really soon by those zombie things, and then someone makes like way too much noise, maybe the rocket launcher shot from earlier, and then boom, zombie swarm. It actually kind of reminds me of when they're trying to avoid the herds of zombies on Walking Dead. Oh, also, check out Harley's jacket. It says property of Joker. I kind of feel like Harley Quinn might have some self-esteem issues. Though, this seems like exactly the right movie / mission for her to finally find some self-esteem. Those shirts, by the way, they translate to, if you want peace, prepare for war. And it's actually a perfect motto for Amanda Waller and her mission here with the Suicide Squad, because it's kind of like saying if you want an omelet, you gotta break some eggs. Like, yes, sure, everyone wants the world to be safe and good and happy, and Amanda's gonna do it her own way with a bunch of villains and psychopaths and violence and bombs in people's heads. And if that motto applies to you, you can also buy that exact same shirt and all these outfits. There's a link in the description to the store where they sell this stuff. The trailer then wraps up with Freddie Mercury singing the final words of the song, "Nothing Really Matters to Me," which sum up perfectly the emotional detachment and the anarchy of Harley Quinn and all of the members of the Suicide Squad. Because ultimately, it's a really dark song and it's a dark thought, and it kind of is being suicidal. That's the result of getting to the point where nothing really matters to you. These criminals are at that point. It's either they do this and they probably die, or they rot in prison and definitely die, so nothing really matters to them. They're all a little suicidal, and that makes them all very detached, but it also makes them all very unpredictable and very dangerous. Seriously, who would have thought that this song would have so many matching themes to this movie? Okay, so that was a great trailer, and unlike some of the other ones we've seen recently, it still leaves a lot to the imagination. We still don't know what the movie's actually about. We don't know who the villain is still. So just great job on this, editors. Good job, DC. Good job, Jai Courtney, even. Who knows? You might be charming in this movie. I just can't wait for this thing to come out. I'm very excited for it, which is surprising. I didn't used to be that excited for this movie, and now I am. So that's the mark of a good trailer. I'm very tired. The trailer wiped me the hell out. So I'll see you guys next time. Hit me up at Fimo if there's anything you want to talk about in this. If there's anything I left out, let everybody know in the comments below. In the meantime, hang in there. We got a lot of really interesting stuff coming very soon. I'll see you then in those other videos. Bye.